Amazing. Can you guys all see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah, fabulous. Just bear with. Okay, so this is the Symbiotic Success Masterclass, and the reason it's called Symbiotic Success is because when we flip the strategy to working with our subconscious first, we get massive results. Like the transformation is so accelerated, and I'm going to share with you exactly how we're going to reprogram your subconscious mind, how we can identify any outdated beliefs, and how you can come back to who you are at your core, especially when you are launching a soul aligned, freedom based business. I found the strategy is so much different. So, if you have been trying to follow so many different strategies and you just feel a little bit overwhelmed, you're not seeing the results that you want, then this is going to help you identify the real reason why that is happening. I am gonna keep an eye on the chat as well. So there's a few tasks, so to speak, that we're going to run through. So if you've got a pen and paper handy, that will be incredible because we're going to find out the beliefs that you're operating from and the stage of entrepreneurship that you're currently in, so that we can recode any areas that are necessary at the end of the session so that you can essentially move out your own way and jump to the next level, which is what we're all interested in. So, like I've said, this masterclass is going to help you master the art of creating your version of success with a 3-step subconscious strategy. So, we recode your subconscious mind, which is linked to your nervous system. So, therefore, we regulate your nervous system, and we're going to redesign your strategy using your unique energetic blueprint. So, has anybody heard of human design, or has anybody done any work on themselves, like using NLP or hypnosis, or have you tried to identify any beliefs that you're operating from?
Just pop it in the chat if you've.
Amazing. Okay, perfect. Love this. Honestly, guys, when I saw that the call was called Conscious Creators, I was overjoyed because this is literally exactly like you guys are just my tribe. Like this masterclass is designed especially for you. So I hope that you're going to get so much value from it. So if you've got any questions as we go through the masterclass, just keep popping them in here and I will keep checking. So I'm so glad that this is going to be of massive interest to you. So my intention by the end of this masterclass is that you will understand why one strategy doesn't fit all, and you'll be able to tell the outdated beliefs that you're operating from. You'll be able to look at your experience, look at the different fragments of your energy and your personality, and you'll be able to infuse that into your messaging and your marketing to become a one of one, because you guys are all promoting the same product. And sometimes you can get in your own way, you can fall into the comparison trap, you can start to feel a little bit of imposter syndrome and think, well, why are they getting the results and I've been doing it longer, or they've got so many more followers, or whatever it is that's going on in your mind, and you start to doubt yourself. And it's not that the product's not working, it's not that you're in the wrong community, it's not that you're not capable, it's just that you've not found your unique way to express and articulate what you're doing, and there may be some hidden beliefs that you're operating from that just need a little bit of recoding for you to move out of your way. Okay, so as Janique has already introduced me, I'm just going to quickly go over this. So I used to be in the beauty business, pivoted to working with the brain. It was a part of my story that I did kind of hold back at the beginning of my journey because I was thinking, well, the differences are so contrasting. Who's going to take me seriously if they thought that I was just a beauty therapist? But there's so many different threads that made me more successful in NLP and reading energy and being able to get to the root cause of the block that people are working with. So, what I want to, the reason that I'm sharing this with you is because we're going to get into it at the end. But when you fully own every single aspect of your story, that is when you are being your most authentic self, and then you start attracting like-minded people. So sometimes we think, oh, I don't need to share that. It's quite vulnerable and people aren't going to relate. But there's so many people that are looking for guidance. And you are, by sharing that, you are going to separate yourself from every single one of your peers in the group, because that is your one of one story, and you'll attract your own tribe. So therefore there's no competition whatsoever, and you instantly eradicate imposter syndrome. So let me see if there's anything that Janika didn't mention. You basically covered it all. So my dark moments, just to go deeper into that, were basically, I just felt so burnt out from managing. We had a team of 25 employees. It was COVID had just hit. My firstborn son, he was 9 months old, and I was just like, you know what, I really don't enjoy doing this anymore. It's not giving me the freedom that I envisaged it would when I launched the company in 2013. So then I decided to invest into drop shipping, affiliate marketing, self-publishing, high ticket affiliate marketing. Literally, I just was investing in everything, trying to find the passive business model that would give me the freedom that I was craving. And I just kept getting met with the same results. They were okay, but it wasn't giving me the substantial income that I was used to. And that's when I started working with a business mentor who specialized in subconscious reprogramming and success energetics. And we highlighted that there were some limiting beliefs that I was operating from. And because I was in the transitional phase of obviously becoming a mom and pivoting careers in my 30s. So there was quite a bit of shame there. And then being a beginner just made me start questioning myself, doubting myself, comparing myself to my past. And it kind of just made me get in my own way a little bit. So that's when I did the work to recode my mind, step into my power, and then obviously became certified to ensure that I can deliver the same transformation to my clients too. And we've been getting some incredible results. And this work doesn't just work on business, on your finances, it also works on health. We've had clients who have completely healed, like Bell's palsy, Crohn's disease, a liver tumor, because everything that we hold within our body, like our physical health, is literally just a manifestation of the emotions that we suppress. So when you look at that and you clear that, not only do you start being a magnet for everything that you want, but you also improve your health and vitality as a byproduct. So it really is symbiotic success. I know that sounds so cliche, but that's why I called it, because when you work on your inner self, the outer really does match up. So can anybody relate to any part of my story, or am I just the only one? Okay, amazing. Okay, so this is definitely going to help you then. So we're going to get into the stages of soul aligned success. So if, as we're going through them, if you can just make a note of the stage that you're in, that would be fab. So first of all, we all start off, we are in our corporate job, in our 9 to 5, in our brick and mortar business, and we become really excited, really hopeful, because we're like, yes, this is the ticket out of here. I am so excited. I want to literally learn everything. And then we start to feel a little bit more of doubt creep in. We start to notice that we're comparing ourselves to other like-minded individuals in the community. And we then even start to feel a little bit of fear around coming out of the closet, so to speak, and doing something differently and showing up online and basically announcing that we are doing something different. Then we've got stage 2. So this is where you've kind of got over that a little bit, but you're also juggling the career that you're currently in. You could be juggling motherhood, relationships, like life is just life in, and you can start to feel a little bit burnt out. You're frustrated with the lack of results because you had your hopes high and you were really excited about the results, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, it's not really yielding me the results that I was expecting. So you start to feel a little bit more frustrated. You think that maybe you're missing out on something, you're doing it wrong, and then you start to go into the next stage where you're relentlessly trying to invest in different strategies and you're trying to copy and imitate your peers because it's worked for them, so it's got to work for you. And especially amongst social media strategies, that seems to be the common advice, isn't it? It's like, oh, look what's working for somebody else. Look at their engagement on it. Then we can imitate that. Then you can just put your spin on it, and then that's going to yield you the results. But your energy behind it is not leading from authenticity, and it may not even be relevant to your story. So that is why you're not getting the results. And then that obviously just leads to more frustration and lack of clarity. And then you want to kind of withdraw from the business because you just feel completely lost at that stage, but you realize something has to shift. You've still got the passion to create your freedom-based business, but right now what you're doing isn't giving you the results that you desire. Then you step in to the aligned CEO. So you're empowered, but you're craving more depth and you want to build a legacy brand. So you want to infuse everything that you are into your branding. You're ready to shift from force to flow. You're ready to quit your 9 to 5. You're yielding the results from your business. You're ready to generate income without the sacrifice, and you're attracting more aligned clients as a result. So I'm curious to know, what stage of the journey of entrepreneurship in solar line success are you at?
Natalie, sorry to interrupt. Is it
Mhm.
possible for you to expand your screen?
Yeah, let's have a look. 1 second, guys. Is that better?
Yeah, better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
amazing. Okay, so let's have a look. Where are you guys at? 2, 3, 3, 1. Okay, amazing. So everyone's pretty much feeling, am I right in saying that you are feeling a little bit overwhelmed at times? You question the strategy. Sometimes you feel like you need to withdraw a little bit, gather your thoughts, and take a little longer to create your content because it's not really landing the way that you wanted it to. Okay. This is massively going to help you because I honestly stayed in that stage for the longest time. And it's only recently, to be honest, that I've started infusing the parts integration work that we're going to discuss at the end, which is the success in a narrative, into my content. And the reason that this creates a massive shift is because when you are a recovering people pleaser, sometimes you don't know who you are because you're too busy putting everyone else first, especially when you pivoted careers. You've made a few, well, no one makes mistakes, but sometimes we can feel like we've made a few mistakes, took a few wrong turns, relationships haven't worked out, maybe we've left a career too prematurely. There's situations that occur that we start to blame ourselves for, and then this causes a disconnect in who we are at our core, and we start to want to kind of like abandon certain parts of us. And it's only when you bring all those parts in and you start owning those parts that you know who you truly are, and you also know who you're speaking to in your messaging, because your dream client is a former version of you, and you've probably heard that a million times. But then when you come to sit down and you're like, right, who is my dream client? How old is she? What does she do? What does she want? Obviously, we know all of that, but then putting that into your content and making it land is really difficult when you don't know who you are at your core and you don't know all the different energetic parts of you. So by doing the success in a narrative work, it really helps. I'm just reading the chat now. Thank you for sharing that, Viviana. Yeah, honestly, I was the same. And you kind of, I don't want to copy anyone. Yeah, I love that determination. Yeah, it's honestly, it's just a little subconscious shift that we need to make. And also when you fully truly realize how incredible you are in the most humblest of ways, you will realize that it's just so easy to make content because you're like, people want to hear me. People want to, they want to know more about how I can help them create a freedom-based business, because it's not about you anymore. It's not about you feeling scared or you feeling judged, because we've cleared those beliefs. It's about how can I serve, how can I show up and give value to people who are really motivated, driven, they're very ambitious, they want a freedom-based life. How can I help them get there faster? So when you flip the script, then that's when you're going to see the results, and you're also going to find it easy to make that shift in your messaging as well. Okay, so we've made a note of the stage that you're in. That's incredible. So just going to touch on this quickly. This is generally the timeline that I have found, and my clients have too, when we pivot to passive income. So we generally start off as the conditioned survival self, even though we're high achievers, very ambitious, life's been good to us, you're capable of more. But then as you start to transition, you start to feel overwhelmed. And this then can increase your survival self. So it dysregulates you because you are literally running from a place of urgency. You're pushing yourself close to burnout. You're working after work on your business. You're pulling late nighters. You're juggling motherhood and relationships and social events. And it starts to feel a lot. And you think, hang on a minute, I got into this business, or I started this side business to give me more freedom, and I feel like I've put myself in a bigger cage than I was in before. And that's when we start to copy and we start to lose ourselves in the comparison and the doubt sinking. So the shift is when we realize that, and we realize it's not that we're not capable, it's the fact that we're running from outdated beliefs, and we're actually still we're still in an employee mindset. We're still being used to being told what to do. So we recode the outdated beliefs, we clear the emotional imprint, we regulate the nervous system, and therefore we get the sustainable soul aligned success and the embodiment that we envisaged when we first launched the freedom-based business. So a little bit about the subconscious mind. Obviously, you guys are familiar with it anyway. You've already been doing some work, which is incredible. So I'm not going to spend too long on this element, but the subconscious mind is literally just designed to keep us safe. And even if safety feels uncomfortable, then it's going to keep us exactly in that place. So if your safety and your familiar is living paycheck to paycheck, worrying about the bills, then you're just going to keep perpetuating in that cycle. If your struggle is, or like your familiar zone is feeling lack of clarity, lack of doubt, and then every time you sit down to gain clarity, you just get more frustrated and overwhelmed, then your subconscious is going to keep you in that zone because that's what it knows, that's what it wants to protect. It doesn't know that it's doing any harm. It's just running off the limiting beliefs that we have operated from this whole time. And we're going to get into where these beliefs come from as well. So the language of the unconscious, the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind is emotion, safety, and imagery. And this is why you've probably seen online, there's so much hype at the minute about nervous system regulation and how you need to do this in order to manifest your dream life. And there is truth in it, but when you literally just recode the belief that you're operating from to one that actually aligns with the goal, your nervous system regulates anyway because you're working with the emotions that are actually dysregulating it. So don't feel like you need to have this 10-step morning routine to regulate yourself, to be a high performer, to get everything done in your life and feel so efficient, because sometimes that can actually put you into further burnout when all you really need to do is clear the emotional imprints that you're operating from. So the conscious beliefs, and this is why working just with affirmations and just, like writing down your goals and repeating them don't work, because the conscious beliefs are in control of logic, reasoning, and willpower. So it's our regular thoughts, what we are consciously aware of, and the reason that we believe we do or we don't do something. And working with the conscious mind only creates 5% of the results. So have you ever said to yourself, I'm going to make X amount of money this year, and it feels a bit of a stretch, and you're like, I'm going to get so many leads this month or whatever it is, and then you consciously believe that, but then you notice in your body there's a little bit of doubt. Your subconscious is calling BS on it. It's like, No, I don't think that's going to happen. But you're like, no, I'm going to make it this year. Like in 1 month's time or whenever it is, I'm going to have X amount in my bank from my business. And it's not that you're not capable. It's just that you've got a subconscious belief that is contrasting to the conscious belief that you're speaking. So what we often do is think, oh, if I just keep saying it, if I just keep believing in myself, if I just keep doing it, like just keep repeating it, then it's going to yield the result. But it doesn't, because along with that belief, there's also limiting behavior as well, such as sabotage, procrastination, lack of clarity, feeling like you need to keep refining your content over and over again, feeling like you don't really know who you are. And that is just because you're operating from a limiting belief. So am I making sense so far? Is it landing? Okay, amazing. Fabulous. Okay, so this is, oh, there was an image that's loading. Basically, there's like a guy there and we can see his nervous system and his subconscious mind. It should be in the right corner, but he's just disappeared. So it'll probably come back at some point because it does help explain what I'm about to share. But basically, it's our emotional undercurrent that dictates our results. So sometimes people will say, you just need to think positively. You need to just think confidently. You'll get the results that you want. But then when you've got past experiences in your financial situation, every time you spend money, you feel a bit guilty for it because you're in the midst of a career pivot or you're new into motherhood, you can start to feel guilty. And that's not new. That's always been there, but it's been covered up by your ego, and you've not really been as conscious as you are right now. Now you're progressing to a freedom-based soul aligned business. If you've ever had any negative experiences in love, then this can have an emotional undercurrent of sadness. If you've ever felt like you've made a wrong move, you have been embarrassed at school or anything like that, then your body, especially the nervous system and the subconscious mind, will link that to the emotional imprint of shame. And it will remember that every time you try to go beyond that, or every time you try and speak out, every time you try and do public speaking or whatever it is, you will feel exactly like you did when you were 6 and you did whatever at school. So then your body puts you into that freeze state, it dysregulates your nervous system and it won't allow you to move past that. So that's when you become choked up, you can lose your words, and you just crumble basically because you're operating from an outdated belief. And it's not that you're not capable. I just really want to hone that in. But we all know that. We all know on a conscious level we are capable. We've just got to make the beliefs match up to that. So if we have an emotional undercurrent of shame, guilt, sadness, anger, and unworthiness, do you think it's going to be easy to stay positive and to get consistent results? No, it's literally like we are trying to drive the car with the brakes on. And this is why it feels such a struggle in especially freedom-based business. I don't remember it being like this in my brick and mortar business, but again, I wasn't as conscious, I wasn't as aware as I am today. So I did still reach financial upper limits, but I didn't know all of this was running the show behind it. So working on our mindset, as I've mentioned, is working on the conscious level. So it's the logical thoughts, and we actually need to focus on deeper emotional patterns that resist change. And we can only do that by working through the subconscious, which is going to also regulate your nervous system, which is also, in terms of manifestation, going to help you manifest whatever the hell you want and also make you a match for the results that are created by effortless action. So as well as our experiences that have formed these emotional imprints, we're also carrying all of this from our ancestors. So I don't know if you've heard about epigenetics, but we can actually carry up to 12 generations of epigenetics. So we really just want to focus on the last 2 to 3 because it's scientifically proven that the last 2 to 3 generations, if they went through significant trauma, that changes our gene expression, and then we can inherit the beliefs. So these are the beliefs that are passed down from the last 3 traumatic experiences that our ancestors encountered. So I'm sure you'll be able to relate. I know my granddad was in the war, and everything that we're going to get through, you'll understand. Like, just let me know if you can relate. So the historic experience in 1944, women who were intuitive were imprisoned. So that caused women to not speak their truth, to feel like they would be punished, they would be rejected, they would be abandoned, they would feel like it's not safe to stand in their full power, and that they must dim their light in order to be accepted. So they then thought, as a result, that they didn't want to share their spiritual gifts, they didn't want to speak about their intuition, so they passed that down to their children and then their children, and then obviously we subliminally took on that programming. And this is why it can feel daunting showing up online, and you wonder, like, why do I feel like this now? I never used to feel so self-conscious, or I never used to like care about what I was saying in front of people, but then when it comes to creating content online, I feel like a deer in headlights. And it's because you're operating from these beliefs on top of any experiences that you've encountered in your childhood or later years. So then obviously we've got the war. This is where survival took over self-expression. There wasn't enough money to go around. The men were out fighting, the women had to step up. The children then became emotionally suppressed because they didn't have support in the household, and then they had to develop faster to take on the responsibility. And because it was such a traumatic time and it went on for like 4 years, they didn't want to speak about it. The easiest thing to do to get through it would be to not speak about it, to just go through the motions and get through it. So then that on top of, well, the Industrial Revolution then came after, and this is where women were seen as equal to men. So both genders were out working. And this is when we inherited the beliefs of hard work is the only path to success. And we just have to work hard. We don't want to rest, as that will be deemed as lazy. And we started to feel like a consistent machine. And we became even more disconnected from our emotions. So you've probably seen on social media as well, like this is like the rise of overcoming generational conditioning. And this is basically all the conditioning that we're overcoming. And it feels so uncomfortable to have to clear it at times, or have to experience it when you feel like you're holding yourself back and you're like, I don't know why, because I know I believe in myself. I know that I'm capable, but every time I try to do it, I can't do it. And this is why. So the recode sessions are basically going to get rid of this for you. And it's so quick as well. It literally takes 20 minutes to clear a single belief. And that belief can have up to 3 reflections, which are emotional imprints and versions of your former self that were attached to it that we clear. And then you're basically recoding your subconscious mind from that. So how do these beliefs affect modern entrepreneurs, especially soul-aligned ones? So you can struggle to show up fully online or to share your message freely. So you can have a fear of being too much, being too loud, being too, well, you feel like you're going to get judged. You have an inconsistent amount of visibility due to feeling so dysregulated every time you go to share your truth. Maybe you post online and then you're like throwing your phone across the room and you've got palpitations and you're like, oh my gosh, like how many likes is it going to get? Or does anyone care? And it's just nerve-wracking. It's not a good place to be in. We can be overworking, over-delivering. We can also get stuck in, I call it my mad scientist moment, because I literally went through a massive wormhole where I was just gathering information. I was literally putting it on my wall, trying to figure out a strategy, trying to like find all the little bits of information that would make my work land. And you work with so many different mentors and you're constantly like saving how to increase engagement, how to do this, how to do this. And it's information overload. It just adds to your dysregulation. So then you can also have a lack of self-trust in your unique voice because the doubt is there, the comparison is there. So therefore, that inhibits the clarity of your messaging and also of your business model. So then you can also be Okay, so that we've just basically touched on that one. So let's move on. But before we do, can anyone relate to any of the inherited beliefs? Do you feel like you're operating from any of those? Is it making sense why you do the things that you do, or why you're getting the results that you're getting at the minute? Okay, amazing. Yeah, me neither. I honestly never thought it would, my beliefs were the last thing that I considered. Because you think you can outbelief your belief system, don't you? You're like, well, if I just think positive, if I just think, no, I can do it, or I can show up online, then we're going to be able to do it. But then when you sat there for like 4 months in a row, procrastinating over the same strategy or the same piece of content that you wanted to post months ago, that's when you realize it's a belief that you are operating from, and you can quickly recode it. So that's the good news. Right, so that is when I created the Clear the Conditioning technique to recode, regulate, and redesign your belief system as a result. So this is going to help you make more money and actually start building your community of like-minded individuals that have been on your journey or that are about to go on your journey. And they only need to be 1 to 3 steps behind you. You don't need to feel like you need to be a massive genius of freedom-based business and have like 100K per month in revenue. You literally just need to be 1 step ahead of them, and you already are, and that's going to be motivating enough. And you know exactly what they're going through, the struggles, the thought processes, what they need in the business, and that's why they're going to trust you, because you're going to speed up the process for them. So by doing well, let me start here actually. So when we actually do the Clear the Conditioning, the reason that we start with your energetics and your identity, like who you are at the core, is because these are the highest neurological levels of change. So when we change our purpose and our identity, we instantly change our values and our beliefs, our skills and our capabilities, and our behaviors, and therefore our results, because we're a different person. We're taking different action, the desires are different. So it makes so much sense to start there. And by also starting there, we're going to eradicate imposter syndrome and comparison. So this is the guy that I was talking about. So this is our nervous system, and this is where our energy, well, our emotions are basically just energy in motion. So whenever we experience an experience that has a high emotional charge, so you can call it trauma, it could be a little trauma, big trauma, it basically gets stored as an imprint in our nervous system. And then because the subconscious uses a language of imagery, whenever we think a thought, it'll just bring up the image and then it'll evoke that emotion. So even when you're thinking, oh, I'm going to post on social media, I'm going to post this, this, or this, you'll notice that you can feel the emotion of maybe anxiety in your chest, or fear just underneath where your solar plexus is. And this is where the emotions get stored. And when I mentioned before that I've worked with a client who healed Bell's palsy, a liver tumor, and Crohn's disease within 5 sessions, that was in her liver because she was storing anger and resentment due to something that had happened at work. And then it got triggered when she became a mom. And then the stress of everything, the dysregulation of the lack of sleep and the uncertainty of her career then manifested in those physical ailments. So yeah, you can have a look online as well. Every single area of your body represents different emotions. So when we do the Clear the Conditioning, we're actually clearing it from the nervous system and the area of the body that you have stored that emotion. So this work is about identity evolution, shifting your belief system to match your success self, because when your beliefs match your goal, there's just no resistance. When your beliefs don't match your goal, obviously that's when you're met with the resistance, the dysregulation, the procrastination, and the slow results. So I want to just find out where you're currently at. I'm just going to have a sip of water, guys, just bear with. Okay. So just think about one area of your business or your life. We're not going to share these, so just choose whatever area that you want to. Obviously, there's the 12 sectors of life, but choose one area that you are facing a problem in. Could be lack of leads, inconsistent income, whatever you want to change. So now we're going to highlight what is the current belief that you're operating from. So you'll identify this by noticing the thoughts that are attached to this. So if it's lack of leads, it could be nobody wants to buy from me. The market's too saturated. The top leader in the group, she's always getting the leads. Everyone likes her content better than mine. Like, what are the stories that you're telling yourself that those thoughts are just perpetuating around? They're in your mind, they're linked to that situation. So what is the most common thought? And that is the belief that you're operating from. And then once you've identified that, on a scale of 1 to 10, how uncomfortable does that belief feel for you to experience right now? Is there a level of frustration, overwhelm, sadness, guilt, shame, anger? And then once we've identified that, what are the top 3 emotions that come up for you when you sit with this belief? So just really tune into your body. Think about this situation that you really want to change. Notice where you feel the emotion. It could be in your chest, in your stomach, in your head. And just give yourself time just to connect to it and identify the top 3 emotions. Okay, so then now we're going to drop a little bit below that and notice how this belief makes you feel, not only emotionally, but mentally and physically. So mentally, does it overwhelm you? Does it cloud your judgment? Does it make you confused? Physically, does it make you feel tired, exhausted, lethargic? And then once we've identified that, how is this belief currently impacting your life? How does it affect the different areas of your life as well? So confidence, career, finances, your ability to take action. And then if you had a magic wand, what is the new belief that you would want to hold instead? One that's going to support the goal that you've got. Generally, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be more empowering. It's going to feel easier. It's going to align with the goal. And how would it feel to fully believe and embody that new belief? How would your life be positively affected by living from this new belief? And what would your future look like if this new belief became your truth? And I've just checked the time, so I'm going to speed things up, guys, so we can get everything in there. But this will have hopefully shown you exactly where the discrepancies are with the area of your life that you're wanting to see improvements on. So you'll be able to see that the belief that you're operating from isn't in alignment with the belief that you want to operate from that's going to yield the results. And that's why you're not getting the results that you want to. So when we recode that, then you're going to get the results. Is that what everyone's found? Can you see the difference now? Just curious to know before we move on. Okay, fabulous. Amazing. I'm so glad you're finding it so interesting. I could literally geek out on this all day, you know. I'm so obsessed with it. It's so transformational and it affects every single area of our life. So glad it's resonating. Fabulous. So I just want to touch on this as well. So we have a quote here from Myron Golden. So he is a business development coach. He was born with polio. He ended up having one of his legs amputated as a result. He was a dustbin man, like dustbin collector, until he was in his 30s. And then he discovered this work. And then, well, now he makes 3.8 million in a month. And he says it's easier for him to make 3.8 million in a month than it is, or than it was to make 10K a month, because the belief system is different. And this is why I wanted to go through the stages of entrepreneurship, because when you also see those different stages as having different belief systems and different levels of consciousness, you can then realize that you're working up the levels. So each level, you've probably heard the saying, each level has a new devil. Essentially, it's just a new set of beliefs, a deeper layer of working, a deeper uncovering of self that we need to get to reach that next level, because with that next level becomes more impact, more visibility, and therefore more results. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on these quickly because of the time. I don't want to take any more time than we've scheduled. So why can't you out strategize your subconscious? Because I think you get it now. I've gone over it that many times, that we are operating from beliefs that aren't serving us. So it could be that you're wanting to launch a new offer or a strategy, but then you have an afterthought of, what if I'm not qualified enough? Or what if it's wrong? Or what if I've not put enough information or value into it? That puts your nervous system response into a freeze. You start to overthink and procrastinate. Maybe you want to be visible online. I know that's a big one for us. People, then the afterthought would be, people will think I'm full of myself. What if I stumble over my words? What if people don't understand what I'm saying? Then the nervous system response is to panic, to people please, to shrink your energy. And not only do we do this, like, do we sabotage ourselves, you might notice that certain things happen outside of your control. Like if you've got children, they could become unwell. They could have a day off school when you've got a whole content day planned. It could be that you have got preparation for something that you're doing within your business, a networking event, and then the night before all hell breaks loose in your relationship and an argument starts and you're like, why the hell is this happening now? Like, I could really do without this. And that is just because you've got a subconscious block. And I know that sounds wild because it's out of our control, but you will, if you look back at the times that you've felt so close to your next level, or you've pushed yourself beyond your comfort zone, there's always been something that will pull you back down. And that's because the nervous system doesn't feel safe staying at that level. So it pulls you back down to regulate. And this can look like that whole cat and mouse game with your social media. One day you're like, yes, I've got it. I've got so much clarity. I'm confident. I know who I'm speaking to. I've got sign-ups. And then you get really high off that. And then 2 weeks later, you're literally wondering what to post. And you think it's been too long that you've been showing up on social media. So you don't even want to show up on social media again. And then the cycle continues. So we've gone over this already. The subconscious mind uses emotions, imagery and symbols, repetition, beliefs, and safety and familiarity, which is why we encompass all of those modalities within the clear the conditioning techniques. And this is the major takeaway that I realized pivoting from traditional business and strategy to that of a freedom-based soul aligned business, that we are here to create freedom, to create the freedom lifestyle that we desire, that we know is possible, and that we want to lead other people to. But we cannot create freedom outside of us if we don't have freedom within. So it's a universal law as well. So I don't know if you're familiar with the universal laws, but it's like as below, as above, so below, as within, so without. So we cannot create a freedom lifestyle and everything that comes with it if we don't have freedom within. And that is freedom from inherited beliefs, freedom from the shoulds, the obligations, freedom from the expectations of societal expectations. And we have to fully own who we are to be able to lead from that place, to therefore get the freedom and the results that we are desiring. So the moment that you feel safe to express yourself freely is the moment that your brand becomes magnetic. And this is the work that we do in the Success in a Narrative work. So we work with the unique parts of your personality, your energy, and also the parts that have been protecting you. So when you're not familiar with this work, that it can sound a little bit wild, but we all have different parts that protect us in ways that, like, for example, I used to have a part that would, in serious times, like if I was experiencing something that I didn't like and someone would ask me about it, I would just brush it off, or I'd just like bring humor to the situation. I'm like, oh, it's no big deal, or laugh about it. And like that, I used to think that was okay, but that's actually a trauma response. It's protecting us from really feeling what we should feel in order to process that situation. We're not taking ourselves seriously. We're not giving ourselves the time to actually digest and process what's happening. And that's what reaffirms the beliefs that we're operating from. And it's no one's fault. It's just that we're still operating from those inherited patterns where it wasn't safe to be vulnerable or to give ourselves the time to truly feel what we're feeling. Because let's face it, we've all been told to just suck it up and get on with it and just, like, don't sit with it too long, just keep moving forward. But as a result of that, we start to become disconnected from ourselves and burn out. And we cannot be disconnected from ourselves when we're building a brand that relies on us to show up and lead others. So this is where we combine your subconscious identity, so the inner self image, your energetic blueprint, that's your authentic essence, and your lived experiences, even the ones that you would rather hide. And in fact, it's those moments that you carry shame around that can actually be weaved into your messaging and be flipped on the head so that you feel the power of them. And if you want to get deeper into understanding how that works, the book by Dr. David Hawkins talks about the emotion, well, the polarity of emotions. So when you feel shame, the opposite of that is power. So when you own the shame, you're going to be able to step into your power, but there's a way to do it. And I know there's so many different strategies for social media, and it's like, just be vulnerable, just be authentic, share your story, but that's not going to help you if you don't feel comfortable owning your power and owning your story. You're just going to be using your social media as a dear diary. And I've been there, and it needs to thread to the actual offering, and people need to see the value in that, not just leave you being vulnerable just because you're trying to heal your shame around a certain part of your life or experience or self. So like I say, I speak from experience. That's what disconnected me from my message. It made it feel so unclear and so forced. And when I actually found the thread between beauty to working with the brain, then that's when I also started working with brick and mortar business owners, freedom-based business owners, and well, mainly brick and mortar owners that wanted to pivot to freedom-based business. And then they all found resonance in my story. And then it also gives people the opportunity to think, okay, it's okay to pivot, it's okay to have a contrasting background, because we are a different version, and we have to be a different version subconsciously in order to make it a success. So when you're living in the past, when you're holding on to a former version of yourself, you start staying stuck because you are not in alignment with who you really want to be, with the results that you're striving to create. So I hope this has given you some insight into how you can start piecing together the pieces of your story, the pieces of your current career, how is that relevant to what you're doing now? And initially you might think it's not relevant, it's completely different. But then my question to you would be, is there a misconception or projections from like those around you of what you're doing now, of your freedom-based business that's clouding your judgment? So what I mean by that is, initially when we're so conditioned, when we're like in the 9 to 5, we're literally, like we pride ourselves on being very professional, and we've worked X amount of years in our career, we've worked up the ladder. We can start to think that people who make money online are a little bit scammy, they don't take their career seriously, they're just like, they'll jump onto everything. And all of these perceptions make us feel a little bit of shame, because we don't really want to be that person, because we don't feel like we are that person. So then we can feel like there's just too much of a contrast between the perception of where we're going and where we currently are. And it's that discrepancy that makes it harder to know who you actually are, because it's like this tug of war between pride and shame, but the shame's held to where you currently are, and the pride is held to your past vocation, if that makes sense. So we need to really own the whole journey. It's all part of the story. So that leads me to say your success story is already written. You just need to realize that and integrate it. And that's the work that we do in the recode sessions, in my 6 and 12-week mentorship program. And then you can have access to the app as well. So you can have the audios that you will listen to actually clear the conditioning as beliefs come up without needing me. And we're going to unpack the subconscious blocks around visibility and identity, rewire those protective parts of your past into your power, and start channeling your full story into your brand clarity, confidence, and expression, so that your content finally attracts the people that you want to work with, which are just former versions of you, and it's going to feel so good. Like when I worked with, I think one of the calls with Janika, we literally turned up, we had the same color top on. I was like, oh my God, I just love her energy, and every single session was an absolute joy. So this is what I'm so excited for you to experience as well. When you start knowing who you are, knowing who you're speaking to, you start attracting people who are just you in a different body, and it's with different life experiences that you can learn from each other, and you realize that you're not the leader, you're all equal, and you're building a community, and you're sharing the life experience, and it's so fulfilling, and it yields the results that you've been truly desiring this whole time as well. So these are just some of my recent client results. So we've got the client who healed her health concerns. We've got the brick and mortar business owner who doubled her income within 5 weeks, and she had 2 holidays, and she'd not been on holiday for 3 weeks prior. She's now actually just opened her UK's first matcha inspired business, and she's fully booked for the next 3 weeks. She only opened it 4 weeks ago, and now her next stress is that she has to hire, and she needs 5 people, 5 new team members. So now we're working through the belief to let her step into her next level. Yeah, so there we go. Has anybody got any questions? Anything that you want to dive deeper into? We've got like 1 minute. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. So you don't even need to know what we're carrying from our ancestors, or the beliefs or the experiences that they've encountered, because when we do the session, your subconscious mind knows exactly where the emotional imprint was. It blows my mind, honestly. So sometimes you will get the feeling, sometimes you will have, it'll just be a knowing of what the experience was. Sometimes, and you'll know the age that you were. Sometimes you can get the vision of the 5-year-old version of you who experienced this event. And we might think, well, that event isn't deemed as trauma. It was literally just me getting told off by my mum because I was being too loud and she was just stressed and overwhelmed. but it's that 5-year-old perception of what that event or what your mum shouting at you actually meant that makes you shut down and retract. And then we internalize that as it's not safe to be excited, it's not safe to be me, rather than realizing that our mums were just overwhelmed. Just going to quickly read through this. Oh, amazing. I'm so glad you found it interesting. Thank you. Yes, I fully agree. With our children literally do need to know this because it changes everything. And imagine, in fact, it's one of my next business phases, especially with my two sons. I want to be able to offer this to children because then, like, they'll be powerhouses from the age of what, 12? Like, they won't need to wait until they're older. Okay, amazing. Oh, thank you so much for putting my Instagram in there. Fabulous. So I don't think I've missed anything. I'm sorry if I have. I don't want to take any more of your time, but these are the ways that you can work with me. So obviously the recode session is a one-on-one session. It's 60 minutes. I do only have 10 spaces available though. At the moment there's a bank holiday discount, which is 222. And then there's the 6 and 12-week mentorship options. So you can just reach out to me on Instagram. My email is there as well. And even if you're on the fence, you're unsure, you just want to know more, then we can hold a free 15-minute consultation over Zoom. So I can just find out your unique situation and how I can help you. And you can see that, well, if we're a good match. Amazing. I think that's everything. Okay,
Thank
well,
you.
thank